Hi guys, today I thought I'd talk about the common expression that's occurring in modern culture, pop culture, social media, and that is the expression my truth. And what that sort of really does sort of mean and what it sort of, indicates to or changes the definition of. Truth, the word truth is based on facts, on what an event or what was said or what actually happened did happen. And when we put the word my truth, their truth, your truth in front of it, it kind of changes and sort of blurs the definition, purely based on the fact that if I encounter a situation, such as, for example, me as a 5-year-old child, always having memory of my father coming home after celebrating 25 years at Peter's Ice Cream. He was one of the top ice cream designers for his time. Anyway, he celebrated 25 years. In those days, they used to drink drive. He stopped on the side of the road to have a piss, got almost beaten to death. The police found him, put him back in his car, let him drive, followed him home. My mother answered the door to my father, dripping in blood, completely sort of like incoherent. She places him down in the bedroom on the end of the bed. As a 5-year-old boy, I wake up to my mother's screams. So I walk up to the corridor. I see my father sitting on the end of the bed, looking dazed into the vanity mirror, covered in blood. To have my mother hysterical and then turning around and seeing me, her 5-year-old son, and quickly sort of turning me back to my bedroom saying, this has got nothing to do with you, go back to bed. To wake up the next morning to see in the laundry, my father's clothes still drenched in blood, but the event never spoken again. But I always remembered the event until recently when I had a regression session over a year ago, and they took me back to that actual moment, which just reignited a memory, but a more clear memory. But the truth of that event for most of my life was, oh yes, my father was almost beaten to death. He was covered in blood. The police let him drive him home. Oh, the good old days, so on and so on. But then it occurred to me during my kinesiology regression session that that truth of that event had affected me in my subconscious. And what it had done in my subconscious, to a 5-year-old boy, child, a baby still, left it up to me to interpret what I believed it was to be. And what I believed it to be in my subconscious was that anyone that comes into my life is possibly going to leave it. Anyone that I'm going to get close to could leave. But not only that, a 5-year-old boy that saw what happened was told he didn't know what he was talking about, or it's got nothing to do with him, or it never happened because it never was spoken about, also put into my subconscious that people lie, and the people closest to you lie. So my point to the expression of the pop culture modern day expression, which kind of started with Oprah's famous speech at the Golden Globes when she came up to get the award for the Cecil B. DeMille Achievement Award, and she went on to speak of the Me Too movement, where she talks about, women's truth and people's truth and all that type of thing. And don't get me wrong, I believe in everyone expressing exactly what their actual truth is. But their truth, to me, of my understanding with my experience and my knowledge, is going to be an interpretation of the truth on how it affected them or how things affect them. So the truth is singular. When we say the word my truth, your truth, their truth, yes, it should be listened to, but it should be advanced on a little bit further to find out why it is that they took it on board and interpreted and perceived it that way. Is it because psychologically there are other events that have actually happened to them that they've taken on in their subconscious, which is controlling their actual conscious behavior, which is also actually sending out these actual signals and these vibrations of when they actually feel it, they send it out and then they attract it back. So it's this reoccurring cycle of behavior that goes into and is in our actual subconscious. So when it is someone's truth, when it's my truth, yes, it's going to be the interpretation of my truth, but it's truly what it's saying is it's the truth of the event on how it made me feel, how it made you feel, how it made them feel. So it's a collectiveness of feelings and impact. Does it actually mean that the event that did happen, was that the intent implication for it to happen? Or is it because that's how that person has received it, perceived it, and interpreted it, and then made it become their truth? Always be based on factual. Facts have to come into it. Because let me explain. It's like a car accident, and you have 10 witnesses. And you take those 10 witnesses away and you interview them separately, independently, and then you bring back the reports of what they've said and what their statements are, and you can be guaranteed that 10 out of 10, there's going to be 10 different versions of how the accident happened. The one common denominator will be it happened, but there will be 10 different versions. Because each person will come from their perspective, their angle, their impact, their emotional reasonings on why or how they actually saw that accident happen. Someone could be coming from the fact that they lost a loved one in a car accident. So therefore, they were a passenger, so the driver of that accident they witnessed is going to be at fault. Or it could be the reverse. Or someone could have sort of like been talking or whatever and then sort of saw the accident, but did they actually see the initial accident, or they just see like within seconds after the accident occurring? So that's my point to when we say my truth. And my truth for me is about keeping the facts straight and then understanding what the intent of that conversation, of those actions, of that event actually are. Because they can get really skew and we in our minds and in our subconscious minds can reinterpret anything that we want to. Because the egoist inside us all will want to be the dominant one that relates to that event, to have the stronger hold on what our actual reality is. So going back to me as a 5-year-old boy, I've now finally let go of those beliefs of losing close ones to me, or not always believing what everyone is going to say. Because as a 5-year-old boy, I was just left to actually interpret what I wanted to interpret, and then whole of my life is exactly how I used to actually see things. It was kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you could say. That, sure, I'd get close to someone, and then in the back of my mind, the energy that I'm sort of vibrating and actually creating in my actual body to eventually prove myself right that, they're going to leave, or they're not going to be truthful to me, or they've actually sort of told a lie. And yeah, they probably will leave, did leave, or probably do lie, but I'm not taking on board their reasons for lying, their reasons for leaving. I'm just taking on board what my perception is of when they leave and when they lie. And there lies the difference about my truth and the actual truth. So when you start to replace the truth with your truth, ultimately what you're saying is that your truth is the only truth and the actual truth doesn't really matter. So that's just my perspective of the changing and definitions of how things in modern culture can occur due to social media, public speeches, and individuals' interpretations. So anyway, guys, until next time.